You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. And coming up on business news this morning, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, says it will begin to sanction deposit money banks from the 1st of November this year over what it says is processing errors with banks check. We have details with Alika Okmanachi Arwa.
The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has said it will commence penalizing deposit money banks whose equipment distort images and data being transmitted during check transaction process from November 1st, 2023. The Apex Bank advised deposit money banks to examine their in-house check processing equipment to ensure that they are properly calibrated and supervised. Communicating this in a circular to all deposit money banks, CBN explained that the penalty and advice are aimed at reducing reported increase of failures in banks' operations. In another development, Nigeria and African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, have signed an agreement targeted at funding the nation's $200 million liquefied natural gas LNG project located in Bayelsa State. The agreement was signed at the ongoing African Energy Week in Cape Town, South Africa, for the construction of a 20 million standard cubic feet per day gas processing facility. The project will be built at Obama Flow Station, situated in Oil Mining License OML 63, and will have the capacity to produce 405 million tons per day of liquefied natural gas and 294 barrels per day of crude condensates. Now let's take a look at Thursday tradings on the floor of the exchange. With business news, Alika Okmanachi Arwa.
Many thanks, Alika, for the business news package. Up next on Good Morning Nigeria, newspaper review.
Let's welcome Chukwudi Okole Ubaja. Chukwudi, good morning.
Good morning, Claire. I am particularly happy you're welcoming me on a Friday. I need a little rest. Good morning, Kingsley.
Good morning, Chukwudi.
How you doing?
Very well. And you?
Good to see you again. Fine, sir.
He says he needs a little rest.
No,
thank God it's Friday. That's why it's always thank God it's Friday.
TGIF.
Well, for those who work from Monday to Fridays. Not for the rest of us.
You signed up for it. No complaints.
But nobody works Sunday to Monday. Let's be real.
There are gaps of rest in between.
Sorry, Sunday to Saturday, not Sunday to Monday.
Yes.
Sunday to Saturday.
There must be a few gaps.
You don't have a 7-day working
technically.
week.
You would fall flat on your face if you tried it.
No, we shouldn't go there now. There are people who do that.
Really?
Who do that, yes. Maybe in between, they find time to nap.
No, nobody works 7 days a week. You have to find at least a day or two of rest.
It's impossible.
And it's part of the scheduling of the job.
If you even tried it, you would fall.
Precisely.
Practically dead, you know.
Okay. Let's begin with blueprint. I was going to say blueprint. And it leads with the story, 2023 polls. Tribunals found no merit in 74.5% of post-election petitions, INEC. Of 1,196 petitions, 712 dismissed, 179 withdrawn. Commission can't be blamed, lacks power to screen candidates, Lumekun. Details of that on page 6. That's the lead story on the front page of the blueprint. But there are other stories as well. Just down below the picture story, you find Supreme Court to hear Atiku's appeal against Tinubu Monday. We won't increase taxes, Adedeji assures businesses. And of course, just trending below those stories, Tinubu pledges commitment to grow Nigeria's economy, and there will be 6 speedy passage of 2024 budget. Will work to harmonize fiscal laws with constitution. Akpabio, that's the president of the Senate, speaking. Now, just a little below the nameplate, Tinubu names blueprints. Ndas Von DG, Onilu heads NOA, Ali Nan boss. Details of that on page 7. And FG unveils plans for renewed hope cities, targets 1,800 hectares from states. Now, diphtheria, Nigeria records 9,478 cases in 20 states. Now, don't engage in panic buying, NNPCL tells Nigerians. Again, don't engage in panic buying, NNPCL tells Nigerians. A quick look at the Daily Trust newspaper, and it leads with industries battle for survival as dollar hits 1,155 naira. There are 4 riders to that story. Companies relocating to Ghana, retrenching textile manufacturers. Now, employers recommend guided float forex regime. One-way flight ticket may hit 130,000 naira. And how to rescue naira, BDC's ex-minister. That's the riders to the lead story. Industries battle for survival as dollar hits 1,155 naira. Now, elections, 891 of 1,196 petitions dismissed or withdrawn INEC. We read that earlier from the blueprint. And Tinubu withdraws appointment of 24-year-old as FEMA chair. Again, Tinubu withdraws appointment of 24-year-old as FEMA chair. Diphtheria, Kanu tops as 15,060 suspected cases recorded in 20 states, including the FCT. And Nigeria, Chinese firms signed $2 billion MOUs, Lekki Deep Blue Seaport contract. It's also traded at the foot of the paper. Just below the nameplate, Kanu governor flags up foreign postgraduate scholarship for more than 1,000 students. Account for 500 billion naira recoveries. Reps tell RMFAC. And Matawale Governor Lawal's feud leaves Zamfara civil servants hungry. Kingsley.
Okay, there's also the New Telegraph newspaper. And above the nameplate says CBN, bank's credit to economy rises by 46.38% to 92.72 trillion naira. FG, EU unveiled 728 billion naira package to deepen relationship. And then below that says, with 80% of citizens in poverty, insecurity will be hard to eradicate. That's Governor Sane of Kaduna State. Fuel scarcity caused by reduced depot loadout in Apapa, says NNPCL. FRS to firms, 18% tax to GDP ratio won't lead to tax increases. Tinubu, Paseki and others mourn as Bode Augusto dies at 68. You have that on page 25. Well, the list story is well clear, already read from the other 2 papers. And then how we recovered 500 billion naira from government agencies. That's according to REMFAC, as Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission. NTA's 6 aircraft policy won't grow sector, according to Obiora. And PDP may sanction Ihedioha over absence at Imo governorship rally. Navy arrests 11 stowaways on board ship at Lagos Anchorage. Gunmen attack Calabar Correctional Facility, kill officer. President orders withdrawal of FEMA chair's nomination. Loss of confidence in judiciary, recipe for anarchy. Chief Judge Soho of the Federal Capital Territory. Chukudi.
Thank you, Kingsley. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, is giving us a rather funny, but not totally to be unexpected one here. He's saying that some border communities in Nigeria do not see themselves as Nigerians and give loyalty to other countries.
In fact, I just ticked it for you to...
You saw it? Yes.
I ticked it for you to review.
This is not, as I said, it shouldn't be an unexpected observation. Remember, we talked about the place of tribe in the African community. Tribe, you know. Some of the demarcations actually do not demarcate Keith and Thin as well. You understand? So it is to be expected. But what I'm interested in is, whom do they pay tax to? If they are within the Nigerian territory, for crying out loud, whether their cousin is a stone's throw from the border, and they could actually say, Chukudi, Wa or Zo or Bieba, they still have to pay allegiance, you know, to Nigeria. So it's a tricky situation as far as I'm concerned. Don't they have government presence? Whose water do they drink? Well, some of them could tell you that they've not seen potable water, pipe-borne water since they were there. So if we do not too show things that make them feel, you know, that they are Nigerians, there would be some hesitation. But as far as they are on our side, we should claim them.
Yes, but
let
me also, you know, the question you asked,
yes,
the minister himself answered it in at least the Daily Trust, you know. And I like to quote
Is it about not speaking lingua franca?
No. He said today, in some border communities, we do not have schools there. No basic amenities.
That's it.
And so the children go to the neighboring countries for schooling.
Apart from the fact that... But I knew that could be the reason.
Apart from the fact that some of them do not speak English. And of course, when you talk about this, you're referring mainly to our neighbors, you know, maybe in Benin, and of course those in the northern part of the country, Niger and all that,
of the southwest too.
Yes, you know. I mean...
No, but let's ask the question. What was the context of the minister's comment? I need to have some understanding.
Yes,
I'm asking this. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't quite take it to the end of it.
He was speaking. He was delivering a keynote address at a breakfast meeting
in partnership with Bridge
Synergy in Abuja. Yes. And so he said the context, Kingsley, will be difficulty in tackling security challenges. He said because many border communities do not see themselves as Nigerians and so give loyalty to other countries instead.
And it stresses what you said initially. They see themselves as foreigners because of lack of basic amenities. That is a point to consider as well.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is that we've had conversation on this issue on Good Morning Nigeria on a number of occasions. Some of the border communities, say with Cameroon, they access some of their amenities from the other side.
Yes.
Chad and Niger and the Benin Republic, they do, again, because the borders are, in a sense, artificial. But the government has established a Border Communities Commission. And one of the mandate areas of that Border Communities Commission is to provide these amenities. They have their office somewhere there, I think in Jabi. For some while, they run supplements on the facilities and amenities that they were already providing or beginning to provide in some of the border communities. That's why I asked about the context.
Okay.
So I wouldn't know whether later on in the minister's speech, he referenced the work or the activities or accomplishments of the commission.
Okay.
Because, or maybe he did that and then the reporter chose which part of the speech to focus on. But to merely bemoan the fact that border communities don't feel like Nigerians, no, measures are already being taken by the commission and indeed by others, because it was in the context of security challenges that this issue came about border communities.
Yes.
Why, for instance, you don't have them supporting our troops or supporting our efforts or helping gather intelligence, or even, for instance, when fuel smuggling was rife.
It could be a serious matter, really.
It was a serious matter. That was the context in which we discussed those issues. But it must be also admitted and acknowledged that there is a border communities commission, and the communities commission, or the border community commission, has advertised some of its activities and what it has done and what it is still doing. I'm not their PRO, but I hope they have their own PRO.
No, please, the clarification is very nice one.
It could well be, as you have said. I want to believe that probably the reporter decided to take this angle.
Yes.
Yes.
He created a peg for himself.
Yes, a peg for himself. But there is a paragraph here that may also suggest that the minister may not also have mentioned.
No, it's okay.
He said we need a needs assessment of the border community.
Exactly.
But that's the business of the commission.
And the commission.
You understand what I'm saying?
So, very important observation you made about the commission.
Yes.
But the question could also be: are they getting the wherewithal to take care of these people? Remember, we keep talking about the National Orientation Agency. I've talked about these people over and over, and the impression I get is that they don't get enough money to do the job they need to do, particularly before the elections and all that. There should be the jingles in town, so to speak, about if you do that, now you sabi, things like that. Do they get?
But I think Chukwudi, I'm sorry to lift
Yes,
in.
okay,
the part of it, because when you see the style of reporting, then as a speechwriter, you also have to tweak your speech or your draft, because let's put it that way, your draft, so that reporters don't run away with items that you don't want them to run away with.
That's it. Back to the newsroom.
I agree, because
I'm almost throwing Drew Tamhouse again.
One other story, Chukwudi, and this is way of commendation. Just before we round off our news, it's just to say that in Borno State, the Borno State Governor, Babagana Umar Zulum, has continued to distribute palliatives, to people. And the latest is the sharing of 125 million naira.
About 40,000 families.
Food to 40,000 families in Konduga. And you begin to wonder, if Borno does this, where does Borno get the resources? And why are other states not,
there is such a thing as competent management of resources.
That's right, but don't also forget, Borno has been impacted by Boko Haram, and you have a lot of aid pouring into that state. There is also the NEDC.
Yes.
But NEDC, that's the Northeast Development Commission. But more importantly is how they are husbanding those resources.
That's it.
Which is where Claire was talking about, and you were also talking about. Very quickly, just before we take this up, because, look, I think that it's important that in making some of these appointments, there is some due diligence. Let's say that the president has ordered the withdrawal
of the 24-year-old.
Of a 24-year-old nomination as chairman of FEMA. As Nigerians would say, there were mixed reactions when the appointment was announced. His father is a very well-known and dignified Nigerian. He's also chair, I understand, of one of the federal government agencies, whether PDTF or TED Fund, I'm not quite sure. 24-year-old. The drive for youth inclusivity in governance, is to be commended. But again, you don't put on the child's head the load that probably will cripple him. A 24-year-old as chairman of FEMA seems to have been an enormous assignment. First-class honors in mechanical engineering, no question about that. But if you are chairman of a board, there are requirements in corporate governance.
You need some wisdom.
Yes,
you need some wisdom. It's like seeing 12-year-olds on motorcycles on the axis where I live. And I tell them, when you would know that you need to mature before you learn how to ride a motorcycle, that's when you suddenly meet an accident. That's when it will show.
Chukwudi,
it's a child on the motorcycle.
Chukwudi, thank you. I'd like to end this review by also, saying that some people have also, made their opinion about this withdrawal, to the fact that the president has listening ears. It doesn't matter if you make a mistake and you listen to what the people are saying, and you correct your mistake. So you must also give it to Mr. President. Chukwudi, thank you very much.
In any event, you hold your appointment at the pleasure of the president.
You need some rest. You said so. So I will let you go now.
Thanks for forcing
me
out of the studio.
So please make sure you go straight home and not to the farm, and then don't do what. Boy,
but you were signing him off and you were eating to our time.
Chukwudi, bye-bye. See you on Monday. All right, let's go for a short break. Now when we come back, we'll begin our conversation.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, before we commence today's conversation, which is a continuation of what we began yesterday on the menace of drug abuse in Nigeria, let's take excerpts from part 1. And here's our correspondent, Abdusalam Jibril.
Coming to the subnationals, I'll tell you that indeed there has been concerted effort, and that is well documented in the National Drug Control Master Plan 2021 to 2025, where all of these things are laid out. And we have also gone ahead to get the state governors to inaugurate, to set up state drug control committees, and even in quite some states also, we've also had local government drug control committees. And we have also gone beyond that to also see that these things are not just mere committees that are not functioning. We have also gone ahead to involve, because we know the governors may be too busy to pay all the attention to these committees. So what we have also done is to encourage the governors to make their wives chairmen of these committees, so that women are more passionate, especially when it concerns their kids, their children, the youth.
Mr. Babafemi has mentioned, uncountable times now that, you see, the drive for this business, the drug supply business, is because of the money involved, which underscores that it is because of the demand. It is people that pays this money that these people get. And people don't pay money for nothing. They pay money for value. It is what they feel they are getting from that substance that makes them pay that amount of money to get that substance. And this is predicated by the addiction they are in, that tells them that you need this drug to survive. So we must begin to look at addiction as a public health concern. Like we have already said, everybody must come on it. We can't start mentioning, the federal government, the state government, local government, SARS, MAS. If we do not have corporate organizations, private individuals who are taking interest in treatment for those suffering drug abuse, in creating needed awareness, reduction of stigmatization, and even to support the ongoing, war against those who are drug peddlers, then this war or this campaign may go nowhere.
I think the scourge of drug abuse, of course, puts the Nigerian youth at risk. If it puts the Nigerian youth at risk, it means the nation itself is on the precipice. So it's a welcome development. And of course, going forward, we believe that now that the Senate has also come alive to its responsibility, other critical stakeholders would also buy in and then make this thing a lot stronger, because what we actually need is a multi-sectoral approach, because it's not just the NDLEA alone that can fight this thing and then win this thing.
All right, thank you, Abdusalam Jibril, for that compilation. And let me quickly begin the introductions for this second part of our conversation. We have right here in the studio Professor Mojisola Christiana Adeyeye, Director General, National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC. Prof, thank you very much, ma, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Also joining us here is Barrister Shadrach Haruna, and he's the Secretary, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA. Barrister Shadrach, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me this morning.
All right. I also have here Olive Chiamaka Sadiq. I choose live helpline responder.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you very much. Yes, that's it, right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much.
Excited to be here.
All right, there are two other guests for today's conversation, and they are joining us via Zoom. First, let's welcome Dr. Oliver Stopp, who is the country representative of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC. Dr. Stopp, we're glad to have you on the program today. All right, and also joining us for today's conversation is distinguished Senator Babangida Hussaini, who is chairman of the Senate Committee on FEMA, but a proponent of the motion on the floor of the Senate earlier this week. He's joining us via Zoom from Uyo, where the Senate is on a retreat. Senator Hussaini, we're glad to have you with us for today's conversation.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for having me.
All right. Very quickly, let's begin with Dr. Oliver Stopp. Oliver Stopp, we've had you on Good Morning Nigeria in the past, and the subject matter of the conversation also was on the drug menace in Nigeria. I'm sure you must have heard the story now coming out of the Nigerian Senate with respect to the adoption of a resolution for the country to declare a state of emergency on drug abuse. Now, perhaps between the last time you were with us on the program and now, what has happened or what is happening? Is it getting any better or in fact getting worse and therefore more alarming?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay? Hello?
Well, Dr. Stopp, did you get my question?
Get your questions.
A bit low, if you could. All right, so let me recast the question. I said that we've had you previously on this program, and the subject matter of a conversation also was on drug abuse. And that you probably are aware of the resolution by the Nigerian Senate now calling for a state of emergency to be declared on drug abuse in the country. So I'm asking you, from your data and what you know, whether the situation with respect to drug abuse in Nigeria is getting worse and therefore more alarming, and if so, what is fueling it?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, for having me and for shining once again the light on this public health crisis. It is a very welcome development that the Senate is now shining the light on the matter in an unprecedented way. Indeed, declaring a state of emergency does not strike me as unreasonable, considering the level of drug abuse, drug use that we are witnessing in Nigeria. As you will recall, in 2018, the National Bureau of Statistics, with the support of our office, conducted the first ever drug use survey. At that time, we measured around 14 million Nigerians between the age of 15 and 64 that had made use at least once in the preceding 12 months of an illicit substance. We also determined that there was a very considerable number, somewhere between 5 to 7 million of Nigerians who made very regular use, in particular of pharmaceutical opioids for non-medical reasons. And when you take these numbers and compare them to the global, so to speak, picture of drug use and the drug epidemic, you realize that the numbers in Nigeria are highly concerning. We are witnessing at present a level of drug use that is about 3 times as high as the global average, which means that we are facing probably somewhere between 15 to 20 million drug users today, taking simply into account the massive population growth, the overall trend that we established in 2018. But we should also be honest enough to admit that while anecdotally we are concerned that the indicators about drug use might develop in a negative, so to speak, direction, we also need urgently the repetition of the drug use survey that was conducted in 2018 to actually be able to really reliably say how the trend has evolved over these last years.
All right, Dr. Stop, thank you very much. I just would like to ask you further, between 2018 and now, you know, when your report, the survey came out, again, you are telling us between 15 and 20 million Nigerians, you know, may be involved in drug abuse and all that. And I know that part of your report contains recommendations and suggestions on areas, you know, and what to address. Now, do you think that your findings, your reports, your recommendations, do you think it's been acted upon by the relevant agencies, or is it just gathering dust, or little has been done?
Well, that is an easy question to answer. And I think also yesterday the program already outlined in a very impressive way of how serious the government has taken this issue, how strongly the response to drug has qualitatively improved over these last 5 years in particular. And I believe also to a large extent driven by the data and the wake-up call that was, so to speak, provided through that data. We see today an unprecedented effort, not just of the NDLEA, but a whole of government, indeed a whole of society effort. Of course, as any other area of public service concern, it is always competing with so many other challenges that the country and society is facing. But I think considering the limitations and resources, we can certainly say that a very serious and significant effort has been made. I think what we need now to determine is to what extent that effort has actually started to reverse the trend, or at least to stop the trend of increasing drug use. And again, as I said, we need data for that purpose.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Stop. We'll put you on hold and return to you later on in the course of the conversation. Now back to the studios. Let's bring in Professor Mojisola Adeye, the Director General of NAFDAC. You heard in our background report, and then also the comments made by Dr. Stop with respect to the abuse of pharmaceutical opioids. And just as a reminder, yesterday in the course of the conversation, I did say that we had hosted the then Minister of Health, Dr. Osage, at a time when the story was all over the place that at least 1 million bottles of codeine-based cough syrups were being consumed in Kano alone. And so there was an emergency measure deployed. But it appears that users and abusers are looking for other ways to beat whatever measures had previously been established to attenuate the prevalence of drug abuse in the country. What is your agency finding out at this time, and what have you been doing?
Well, thank you so much again for for having me. 2018 was a very bad year in terms of drug abuse. because of codeine abuse or codeine syrup abuse. Since then, NAFDAC has banned the use of codeine, and about 2.5 million bottles were recalled, and it took a while for us and Ministry of Health to get it to be destroyed. We got it destroyed in Lagos State destruction facility, and the government also reimbursed the companies that never were part of the distribution abuse, maybe up to about $1 billion, because only 3 or 4 companies were involved in this distribution abuse. But since then, NAFDAC has geared up in terms of community involvement. This was just before the pandemic. We started the national campaign against drug abuse, going to secondary schools, because it's not just us controlling the importation. It is also making sure that we get into the community. And we went into, actually partnered with young pharmacists that are all over the country. And we got a lot of traction from this. Then the pandemic came. So that kind of sets us back. But we've started it again, going to schools, secondary schools, working with Parents Teachers Association, because they didn't allow us to deal with the children directly. This is part of Pillar 1, Pillar 2 of the drug master plan, which is reducing demand and reducing supply. So NAFDAC has been very, very proactive in this, but we may be treating the problem once it gets into the country. It is us now controlling the drugs when it gets to the country, and that's where we are now. That's what we are doing right now, using technology, because we know that narcotics is a problem, and it's not just NAFDAC. At the beginning of this program, we talked about multi-sectoral. It's not just NDLA, it's not just NAFDAC, it's customs. Because drugs cannot come in without customs. But what we're now doing is using GS1-driven technology, traceability, to make sure that all narcotic importers fall into our database. We have the traceability information system. We use that during the pandemic to track all the millions of vaccines vials that came into the country. So if you go to our website, of course it's password accessed, traceability information system. If you want to know where Pfizer batch 1 went during the pandemic, it will show all the local governments and wherever hospitals that it went. So we're using that now. It is a technology-driven process, and it's going to be private. We've done public. Public is vaccines coming through the government. We are doing anti-malaria, anti-tuberculosis, antivirus now, but we are leaving the private into solution providers' hands. Solution providers will now train importers that will come in to track and trace your product. So if that product gets into Lagos, it will be commissioned into our system. Let's say you have 1,000 packages of a particular narcotic. We will scan the barcode. It's a barcode driven system. We will scan the barcode, it will get into our system that 1,000 came for this particular company. And we will demand from that company the distributors, because it is a chain that we want to make sure that there is no diversion, no infiltration, and we will, what is going to need is the global trade number and global location numbers. These are all computer type of thing, you know. And once a company registers with us, that is the process that we're going through now, registers with us, submitting their global trade number and global location number. This, for example, this building has a global location number from, you know, from the sky, you know. So once that product gets into a particular site, where the distributors also will get their global location numbers, so that we can track the chain. So that is what we believe is going to really solve the problem, because with that
problem of supply,
not just supply, it is distribution. Where is it going? If it gets to Lagos and it falls off of that chain.
Sorry, Prof. Clarify this.
Yes.
You used an expression a moment ago. You say when narcotics come into the country.
Yes.
I'm somebody will assume on the face of it that narcotics are illicit. But yesterday on this program, Femi Babafemi of NDLA, and incidentally the secretary of the NDLA is also here, the question came up about abuses of pharmaceutical imports, that there are persons who are licensed ordinarily to import some of these, I don't know what they are called.
Yes.
You are a pharmacist, so you know.
There's still narcotics, but different categories.
Precisely,
Yeah.
you know the details, but that some of them now divert these legal imports into misuse, and ultimately, is that part of what we are talking about now? You are trying to arrest?
That is exactly what I'm talking about. For example, I mean, if a drug company brings the drug into the or through Lagos, that company will have distributors. They may be pharmacists, they may be hospitals. It is what happens if it goes to a particular pharmacy. What happens? Because that pharmacy has a global location number. Without that global location number, that pharmacy cannot go into the distribution chain. So if it is diverted, we will track it. It means that it has fallen off the wagon.
Okay.
So that is part of the technology-driven approach.
Is it in place now, or it's still being worked? It's still a process?
It is. We have already used it successfully for vaccines, and we are training. We have trained over 1,700 across the country to develop the culture of scanning. Okay, the products come to Lagos, it will be scanned into our system. If 100 out of 1,000 is being taken to a particular distributor, that distributor will scan it in. They will scan all these samples or bottles into their own system. So everybody has to have a scanner.
Do you trust this system to be foolproof?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. It's foolproof because it's technology. If something is going, you're supposed to go straight, and then all of a sudden, something, you know, it goes to another diversion, you will see it. And then we can then follow it up. But
even at the point of scanning, you know, it is still humans that, you know.
It is humans that scan, but that will show in our system that somebody did something wrong.
Okay, now, DG NAFDAC, yes. Again, I want to reference what the director of NDLA mentioned yesterday. We do know, from what we said, morphine, cocaine, and what is the name of the other derivatives? Yes. They are ordinarily legal drugs, prescribed, and they're taken in the right doses. Yes. Well, example is cited was that of tramadol, which is also heavily abused in Nigeria, I imagine. That the usual dosage is about, is it 50 or 100 milligram? Yeah. So now you are having it come in 200, 250 milligram. The question, therefore, is your arrest mechanism, if you may, or tracking mechanism. Yes. Will it also be able to capture the strength of, say, tramadol, if there is mislabeling? there could be deliberate mislabeling from source to say, no, this thing, the strength is actually 250, but just write 50 there. And so that we can beat, all this busybody NAFDAC. So are you in a position to be able to detect that?
Actually, that is where the collaboration comes in with NDLEA. The scenario that you have mentioned is an exception, because the companies over there also know that they are liable to us. But there have been exceptions where that could have happened. But most of the time, if it's 225 milligram, it is put there. If it is 250 milligram, it is put there. And that is where NDLEA comes in, because they go after those that bring strengths that are above the prescription strength. Does that mean that 50 cannot be combined five times to make 250? That is where the misabuse comes in. But whether it is 50 or 100 milligram or 225, if it is 225 or 250, NDLEA will have to take care of that, because it's above prescription strength. But we have to do this technology to ensure that we can track where it is going, and then NDLEA, NAFDAC, the police or whatever, we can join hands together to...
Yes, just again, before we bring in Barrister Haruna, Dr. Stubbs talked about impact of, the approaches or the preventive methods that we have used. And he says that is yet to be seen. And yes. I don't know what you think of that. So far, all the, strategies that we have put in place to address the issue of drug abuse in Nigeria, do you think it has it made any drawdown, on the data?
I believe that what he was saying is true to a great extent, actually. That the survey that was done 2018, showed 10 to 50 million Nigerians are using one drug, abusing one drug or the other. But we need to do another survey. It is high time. It's 2018, 2023. After 5 years, let us see where we are in terms of prevalence of abuse.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Ade. And the NDLEA secretary is here with us in the studios. We'll come to him. But now let's go to Senator Babangida Hussaini, who proposed the motion that the distinguished senator made on Tuesday. It was debated, and then a resolution came out of that. Senator Hussaini, what was your motivation in proposing that motion?
Okay, once again, thank you very much for having me. And really and truly, it is something I have taken an interest over the years, the condition and the situation of our youth generally. I have seen the degrading manner in which our youth are being subjected to, especially during the campaigns, and where nobody is an exception. In fact, this is a multidimensional problem, like it was earlier reported here. During the campaigns, I see how young men and young girls are being subjected to all manner of, addicting themselves to taking drugs. It will interest, maybe let me pass this to the DG NAFDAC. Beyond controlling the drugs that are imported, if you go to the villages, the small chemists are compounding and bringing the same drugs that are perhaps harmless. They compound them together and produce something that you will not even believe. This is something that we should all look at. In fact, the menace has gone up to the family level. Marriages are being broken. And my constituency lying on the border, you need to see the quantum of drugs that are being imported through our border areas that are perhaps unmanned or unchecked. Yes, Alhamdulillah, NDA is not doing too badly. Lately, they have woken up to their responsibility. But I look forward to a situation in which I will have more NDLA officers managing their various local government offices than even the police, because the issue of drug, as it were, is quite alarming. There was this report that jolted me, and the report, beyond even the United Nations UN DOC report, that was claiming about 15% of youth abusing substances. The recent one I got from a local reformatory center in Kiru, that is
Oh dear, we apologize there. We do hope to reconnect with the distinguished senator from joining us via Zoom from, of course, Akwa Ibom State. I understand he's back. Senator, please, you may continue.
Okay, thank you. I commissioned a team of young researchers that combed the nook and crannies of Lagos and Kano, which are the focal areas. And the findings were really terrible. The DG, it will interest the DG and the DGNDLA to know that the menace has gone beyond the secondary school that was your target to even primary schools. Even at the home front, I will tell you an interesting story. There was this drug that was hallucinative, kind of, video hallucinative. The young man was sleeping with his kid brother in the room, and then he woke up and ran to his mother's room and said, "Mama, I've just seen a snake in my room and I've killed it." The mother came to check what exactly happened, only for her to see that the young man, under the influence of hallucinative video drugs, had killed his own junior brother. It's really terrible. And my motion wasn't even about a wake-up call, as somebody called it. It was a cry for help. We need help in Nigeria. And really and truly speaking, it goes beyond NDLA, NAFDAC. Every community should be sensitized, should be woken up to see a drug menace as a big problem that will probably take away our future. And that was the reason behind my motion on the floor of the Senate.
Distinguished Senator, what are your prayers now? Because the National Assembly also has a part to play in all of this. Beyond raising it as a motion on the floor, what are your exact prayers?
My prayers were about 8 in number, but they are all encapsulated into calling and convening an emergency, declaring an emergency. That is one. Secondly, reviewing our legislations, institutional reforms. At the same time, establishing drug rehabilitation centers in all our tertiary medical centers, the federal medical centers, the teaching hospitals, and then also regulating the operations of
Senator Hussaini, once again, there is a freeze from Uyo. If it clears up, we'll continue with you. Senator Hussaini, we await a better connection from Uyo. Well, of course, we'll come back to you. If that doesn't quite work, then our engineers will get you on telephone so that you talk some more about the prayers and what, of course, you'll expect the rest of society to also do in tackling it. And we must also state this fact again, that on Good Morning Nigeria, we focused on the menace of drug abuse. We focused on the menace of drug abuse. Yesterday, I reminded our viewers that there was an occasion when we had a father and son. The son had undergone rehabilitation, he got better here in the studios, and he was telling us of his experience, how he was always looking for a fix when he was in Mina, in Niger State. And I remember that I asked him that question, this was some years ago. He said that he was so primed for a fix that he would do anything to get that fix. So he said that he got an Okada rider on that occasion. And I said, look, how did you identify an Okada rider? If I'm an Okada rider, for instance, how will you know that I can take you to the location? Or is every Okada rider necessarily a lead to where you can get a fix? He said that he had studied some of the Okada riders who were passing by, and that from the lips of that, the NDLA secretary here is saying yes. He said that from the lips of the Okada rider, he knew that Okada rider was also likely an abuser, and that once he stopped the Okada rider, he was ready to pay the Okada rider any amount to take him to that location, and the Okada rider actually took him to that location, and he got his fix. But happily, he got out of it. And yesterday, we also prayed that he's been now on the straight and narrow path. So it's a major problem that we are faced with. And as the distinguished senator is saying, if it's now gone down to the level of primary school, and then you're having all kinds of hallucinations, this is a big issue. Yesterday, again, attention was drawn to the fact that NDLEA can't do this alone, and we can't push it to NDLEA and say it's your remit. Barrister Haruna.
Well, thank you so much for having me here this morning, and I think I want to thank you as well for highlighting this issue, because it's a big issue for all of us. Drug abuse, abuse of illicit drugs. Indeed, I want to thank Senator Husseini as well for bringing this to fore. It's what NDLEA has been saying for the past 2 years. We need to declare a state of emergency for the use of illicit drug in this country. In fact, you just gave a scenario of an Okada man who uses drugs. Same thing with drivers. If you go to the park, you see a driver taking off, the first thing you do, you get to the gate, somebody just drop tramadol in his palm, and then with pure water, you just swallow it, and then he continues with the journey. You see that with truck drivers as well. And indeed, even your child who is in your house, not going out, staying upstairs, watching or playing video game, he has his own channel of distribution. Indeed, they have a way of getting your house help or your megad to bring in the drug to them upstairs, because they go through the internet to buy these drugs. And we just mentioned some of our chemists or some patent medicine dealers in villages making all this concoction, which we call new psychotropic substances. They make this concoction, they know who their clients are, and they know where to get the users know where to get them. And they go online, buy this online, and couriers will bring it to their house. Megad will take it. The parents will not know. Oh, my child doesn't go out, she's always indoor. But of course, it's a sign, it's a telltale sign for you to know that that child is up to something. He doesn't come down for dinner. You have to know, you have to find out why he's not coming down for dinner. He hardly stays with the parents or the family to watch television in the evening or listen to 9 o'clock news. It's a telltale sign for you to know that that child is up to something. And the proportion is so high that it is not just the government, that we need a whole society approach. And I think that is what Senator Husseini is saying. He's quite on spot that we need to have presence in all the local government. And that is what NDLEA has done. We've just graduated about 2,500 cadets yesterday, and all of them are going to the local governments. We have a program called WADA, which is War Against Drug Abuse. And this war against drug abuse, Femi spoke about it yesterday. We're working with traditional rulers, local government chairmen, and opinion leaders in the local government. So we want to empower them by having NDLEA officials in all the local government, in all the constituencies, and in all the district level to ensure that the program works. In fact, just shortly before the program started, you were talking about the governance structure we have that is not working. The governance structure needs to be there, but we need people to drive the process. And that is why we want to have NDLEA officials in all the nook and crannies of this country. The issue of drug abuse, which is brought to the fore by distinguished senators, is something I also want to appeal to our legislators. They have what they call constituency projects. Some of them are actually domiciling their constituency project to campaign in NDLEA. We want to call upon them. Help us. Bring your constituency project. We'll take it to your constituency where you think drug is prevalent. And we do a lot of advocacy there. And it's helping. You mentioned the issue of rehabilitation centers, equipping rehabilitation centers. Some are also doing it. We want them to do constituency projects in that respect, to support the funding we have in NDLEA. Of course, we have a lot of competing priorities in the country. And drug use is one basic public health issue which we need to address. Otherwise, the future of this country is in jeopardy. We know the economic cost of using drugs to the country, and that is going to affect the economy of this country in the future. Come 10 years down the line, we don't know what is going to happen. We're doing a lot.
But Haruna, thank you very, very much. I must say that in the past few years, we've seen, we've heard, we've read about suspects nabbed, drug traffickers nabbed by the NDLEA more than I can ever remember. So I think yes, the agency is doing well, but it would appear that attention is now more on those who bring the products in, those are the traffickers. What about the hamlets within cities, within towns, within communities, where people just go in, even people not elderly people in power, people in adults, where they go hide out and take their thing. What are you also doing to clear those areas?
Yes. Well, thank you very much. You've identified some of the spots, some of the red spots areas. Yes, it's true. But you see, like I said, we have officers who are now covert operations, doing covert operations in all these areas you've mentioned. We are not just looking at the flowers. We're looking at the stem as well as the root. And that's why we're getting so many barons. That's why we're destroying so many cannabis farms and burning and destroying warehouses where cannabis are stocked in the forest. You notice our officers have to trek for almost about 10 kilometers into the deep forest to destroy cannabis farms, to destroy cannabis warehouses in towns. Some of them have been destroyed. Now what we're doing to empower them is also to ensure that they have the courage to go down against these farmers, is to provide them with armored vehicles. The agency has acquired some of them. In the past 2 years, we have destroyed so many cannabis farms. In fact, this year alone, we've destroyed about how many? The cannabis farm destroys about 172.41 hectares just this year, between January and September this year. That's to tell you, and these things are in deep forest, deep village, where you will not even expect any government presence. But we have our officers go there to do this. So which is why we need more personnel to man all these ungoverned places. And the prevalence is so high that some of these farmers have their own soldiers fighting us. Our officers have been murdered in their sleeps. Some of them have been killed while in their offices. In Bayelsa, for instance, we faced that attack. Our officers were killed just for nothing. Some of them were mobbed on operation. And we need the society to support us.
When you say, clarify this for our viewers, when you say they have their own soldiers, I know that's a manner of speaking.
Yes.
You are not suggesting, for instance, that these are members of the armed forces, are you?
No. I'm just saying soldiers in the sense of those people they have armed to fight against drug agents. I mean, law enforcement agencies.
In italics.
Yes, in italics. Thank you.
All right.
Will destruction of those farms, cannabis farms, because in other climes, they are also put to some very positive, economic use. Will outright destruction of those farms, is that the way to go?
I think it's the way to go. Reason because our law still provides that cannabis is prohibited, absolutely prohibited. And in fact, those who are talking about the commercialization of cannabis, they're few compared to those who are looking at it from a harmful impact. And I think the DG NAFDAC will confirm that even World Health Organization has said the harmful impact of cannabis far more outweighs the commercial value or the medicinal value of it.
Commercial value, not the medicinal value.
The medicinal value.
I don't want to clear, with your kind leave, I don't want to get into that debate so that we don't veer away. I remember on Good Morning Nigeria, the only one of our newspaper review segments a couple of years back, I did say that it was important to look at that segment of production and how it can be controlled. But against the backdrop of what we are discussing, I don't think that is a matter that I would even propose at this time. Because yesterday we heard that the so-called, not so-called, now there are some herbal concussions that are now being mixed with Indian hemp, that is marijuana. And people take it and you see them, they go wild. But let's bring in Olive Chiamaka Sadiq. Sorry, I'm sure you've listened to what has been identified as some of the issues, and happily you are a responder to I Choose Life Helpline, which means that you take calls from persons who need help. What has your experience been like? Just tell our viewers.
Okay, the experience has been. It has been one to, it has been a concern, right? So we created the space because we understand that it's not everybody that would like to, just open up to everyone about what they're going through. And we actually saw that one of the major things that make people go into drug and substance misuse is the state of their mental health also. And we created this space also to help people prevent them from going into drug use, and then of course provide solutions if they are already using these drugs. So we have received different cases, different issues, and all as why people go into these drugs. Some of them are, some people are experiencing depression. And depression goes a long way, and they're experiencing depression, and then when they are depressed, they don't know, what to do. They can't open up, they can't talk to other people, and it feels like the next available thing for them to do is just find the in thing in the society to just indulge in, to help them forget all they are going through. And that is what we have been doing so far, helping people maintain a sane mental health, and then we are open for them to talk about anything and then everything. So
what are they talking about?
They basically sometimes they just want to rant about the economic situation. They just want to rant, especially this period is more about economic situation, and we have more students calling this period as a result of the hike in price of their school fees. And a lot of them are running into depression, a lot of them, and some of them are dropping out of school. So these are most of the calls that we received this period. And then women calling to ask for help, concerning the schools, still educational issues too. They can't afford school fees for their children also, and all that. So that is the major issues that we have been facing so far, and major issues people have been talking about in recent times. And also people usually talk about breakup, family issues, divorce and all that stuff. So these things put people into depression and can make them resort to taking drugs.
I'm just curious, as a responder, just talk us through, before we just take a short break, quickly talk us through a day, with someone.
On phone?
Yes. Well, just give us an insight. How does it?
Okay, we just started.
You get a call?
Yes, we're barely a month, so we get a call from somebody. So it's the person can choose to be anonymous, or just we ask them their name, what's their name. We just need just their first name, and then how they're doing, how their day is going. And sometimes they just start from the little things, right? Most of them don't even want to talk.
But they make the call.
Yes, they're hesitant for a little bit, and then we show them that, first of all, we lend them their ears. We show them that, we make them know that this is not a place that anybody's going to judge them. We don't even know them, we're not going to judge them. We make them know that we can listen to them no matter what. We are listening to them, and we're empathic. So we're not quick to even give solutions or advise them on what to do. First of all, we want to really listen to you, we want to empathize with you, and you just get them talking. We don't start advising.
So you initiate the conversation when they are hesitant.
Yes, that's what we do. We help them, just keep talking, just get familiar with us. We're like basically friends. We try to, create like this relationship with them, because that's the way they'll be able to open up to us and tell us the things that are, really disturbing them.
But tell us, even you as a young person, I'm not patronizing you, as a young person, what kind of vibes, that's the way you guys call it, what kind of vibes do you get from your mates? I'm asking this because when we were growing up, it wasn't as if marijuana did not exist in this country. Marijuana always had existed. There were persons who chose that line, and they knew how they ended up. But I recognize the fact that in our time, we believed in Nigeria. And today, I still believe in Nigeria. I believe that Nigeria has been very kind and good to me. But some of the kind of vibes you get from your mates, is it that they don't, what kind of vibes do you get that probably just compounds the entire situation for them and they see hopelessness and then get into this?
Okay, some of the vibes, like I earlier mentioned, first of all, is the economic situation of Nigeria. And it feels like nothing is working in Nigeria. I mean, that's what people always say, like nothing is really working in Nigeria, and they just need, where it's working is, of course, it's in the Western world. And everything they want to do right now is just leave this country, and that is what they are all aiming at to do. They just want to leave this country. Nothing is working. They are graduates, they are first class graduates, and they can't really get good jobs.
Olive, let me, sorry to interrupt you, let me just put you on hold. We get to pay some commercials. When we come back, we'll allow you, of course, to conclude your thoughts. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Let's take a short break. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to the program, and we are just on the down, stretch home, and so we'll just quickly bring in the DG just before we come back to Barrister Shedrack here, and I was just sharing my childhood experience to which the DG, is about to respond, and she mentioned the issue of parenting. DG, please go ahead.
It is extremely important for us parents to know that we are parents. We are not our children's friends. When they get married, they have their own children, we can be friends. I have 3 children, and I stayed on their case. The first one is 40-something now, But I stayed on their case when they were young. But now, parents give rights to children that are below 10. The children rule them. Children should not rule parents. Parents are supposed to guide children. But many of us parents have abdicated that role. You just mentioned, juniors being upstairs, not coming down. You don't want to come down and eat? You've got to come down and eat. Nobody is going to bring your food over there to you. And if you don't come down one day, second day, then what is the problem? We have to get more involved with our children. That is why God created us. To bring children into the world, to be their pastors, to be their imams, to guide them right. But many parents have abdicated that role. And they leave these children. My young child here was talking about depression. For my own children, kitchen is where we interacted the most. Because everybody has to be there. I'm not going to go and cook for you and then bring your food upstairs. No, you've got to come down. So it is during, and then family devotion. In the evening. And because these are practical things that work for me. We read small portions of scripture, and then I will just say, okay, what is your experience today relative to what you read? Oh, mommy, you cannot believe what we saw in school today. And this is in the US. Children will bring heroin. And we were living in Anglo-Saxon neighborhood. They will bring heroin into the toilet, something. The richer, the worse in the US. Here, I think it's everybody. It's everybody. There was something that was, in social media about 3-4 weeks ago. Milo powder, Milo packet. They will empty it and put narcotics inside it. Marijuana grounded and mixed with Milo. And they will iron it back. These are girls going to parties. What? I have to know the friends of my children. I have to find out if they are doing overnight or whatever. I have to know, because that's why I'm a parent. I'm not a parent to earn money and drive, big cars or whatever. But many of us have diverted our attention to things and living the precious gifts that God has given us. Parenting, extremely important.
Thank you very much, Professor Modishola Adeyeye. That's a very significant point. All the money that people are chasing all over the place, we are seeing the downside now. At the end of the day, there are consequences, but not necessarily so. But let's bring in, once again, distinguished Senator Babangida Hussaini. Distinguished Senator, I'm sure you had the benefit of the other contributions by the other guests with respect to the whole of society approach that is required. Yesterday on this program, there was a suggestion that the summit is not necessarily what is required at this time. Rather, let's have a small committee, including lawmakers and other persons, other stakeholders, NAFDAC, NDLEA, state governments, local governments, or their representatives or associations, and then work out an action plan that can then mobilize the whole of society, of course, plus imams, preachers, and pastors, and so on and so forth. This is an existential challenge with respect to our public health. What are your thoughts?
Yes, really, the starting point is the declaration by the executive on the declaration of emergency on drug and substance abuse in Nigeria. And I think this will go a long way in bringing about the buy-in of the other arm of government. Secondly, the summit we're looking at is about bringing everybody on board. The imams have to be there, the traditional rulers have to be there, agencies of government have to be there. And then coming out of that summit, we now create a technical committee that will draw up a roadmap. And the roadmap will have so many dimensions. We are looking at legislations, we are looking at sensitization, we are looking at the laws established most of the agencies of government dealing with the menace. Really and truly speaking, it is not a one shop event. It is supposed to cascade down and to affect almost every segment of the society. And then it is meant to be continuous. Drug education will entail reviewing our curricula to include it even in primary school. I have a research which, like I pointed out earlier, that I sponsored the research, and it was discovered that even at the primary school level, children are being exposed to the dangers and to the detrimental use of hard drugs. That's how bad it is. Families are being broken, communities are being broken, and even the violence you see in crime is precipitated by the use of these hard drugs. So it is a basket that will bring everybody on board, and then we now take it off from there. Institutional reforms, institutional strengthening, because yes, commendable effort, which of course was part of my prayer that NDLA should be commended. But again, I want to see the activities of NTA strengthened and deepened up to the community level. I understand the challenges they are having, the funding issues, the manpower issues, the equipment issues. These are all matters that can be brought to the table, and we take them going forward. I believe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in his agenda has this in mind, and I think it will be good if we take it up holistically and deal with it holistically. That's my thought.
Senator, thank you. We'll still stay with you, and we'll be back with you in a moment. But let's, the DG NAFDAC, I mean, we're talking about what to do, actionable, strategies now. And I'm wondering, in terms of strengthening agencies, is there anything that NAFDAC is lacking at this moment?
NAFDAC doesn't have enough staff. We have 200 pharmaceutical companies, local. We have 1,000 overseas with maybe 10, 20 products each, and we regulate 7 products, including drugs that we're talking about. But we have only 2,000 staff. We need more staff. Because we are expanding our post-marketing surveillance. It is at the post-marketing level that you get into all this drug abuse, hawkers, people hawking. Many of the hawkers sell controlled drugs. We need a lot of staff. That is the challenge that we have been facing in NAFDAC since my inception.
By how much strength?
By up to 5,000. From 2,107 or whatever that we have now to about 5,000.
Okay.
Because
let's say double the number.
Double the number, exactly. Thank you so much. Thank you.
On which note, we'd like to thank the Director General of NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, who's been with us on this conversation. She has some other engagement, but she's had to continue to weigh in order to underscore the severity of drug abuse in the country and what should be done and what is being done to tame the menace. Prof, thank you very much for being our guest.
Thank you, always to be here. Thank you.
Okay, you're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Let's go back to distinguished Senator Hussaini. Distinguished Senator Hussaini, well, in terms of what NAFDAC is doing, what NDLA itself is also doing, I was just wondering, what could be, Nigerians always talk about quick wins, but what could be the other measures with respect to, say, the role of subnational entities? Because, as I always say, we hardly hear much from the subs when matters of this nature are on the table.
Well, you see, the disconnect in the system between the national and the subnational level bring about this schism and bring about the opportunity that people, and then the drug issue wasn't really taken very serious. And I believe the idea behind my recommendation that a summit involving all stakeholders should be convoked, and then we sit down to deliberate fully on this matter, I think occasioned that. But beyond all of that, you see, most of the institutions and the laws establishing them, it will interest you to know that, Mr. Kingsley, that a lot of them are archaic. Some of them have been in place for more than 10, 20, 30 years. And then you are dealing with the situation that is rapidly expanding like wildfire. In the 80s and 90s, Nigeria was just a transit point. Today, we are not only a transit point, we are a consuming nation. We are not only a consuming nation, we are a producing nation. I was shocked with the methodology of producing the Kuremiri and Kurkura. These are common drugs in the south and in the north. And if you see the devastating effect, Mr. Kingsley, that this kind of drug brings to the taker, you will be shocked that this is happening in Nigeria. And of course, like you rightly pointed out, it is at the subnational level. So these are the issues that I want to bring up to the table, bring them up, and then get everybody to come on board to deal with this problem.
About Claire, so let me throw this in. I know that NDLEA has its hands full, but in terms of advocacy, how much recruitment of groups, bodies and associations has NAFDAC tried to, NDLEA tried to do? Because let's say in these communities where these things take place, you have associations, you have unions, and so on and so forth. If you are getting into these linkages with, shall we say, echo chambers or repeater stations, how easy is it, or how cooperative are they? Do they see this problem the way you have all painted it now, to say that, look, it's a public health and even a mental health issue?
Yeah, well, thank you, Kingsley, because what you said is precisely what the agency is doing now. We try to balance drug supply with drug demand reduction. And our drug demand reduction strategy includes taking the whole society, as I've mentioned. Currently, all our commands and all our special area commands and other subunits are working with traditional rulers. In fact, there's hardly any week we don't have sensitization being done in one community or the other. This is happening at the grassroots level. And we want to upscale it. We want to do it as often as possible. Mostly, some of our commanders are doing this with the help of traditional rulers, support of traditional rulers, not necessarily because they have a lot of fund for it. I've seen some traditional rulers sending photos of what they have done with our commands, telling us that it's having a lot of impact in their domain. So we want this to happen often, but we need resources to do that. And that's why I was calling on legislators who have constituencies and have constituency projects to domicile some of their constituencies to fighting drugs by conducting this advocacy and sensitization program. Indeed, we have a lot of statistics regarding where they have gone to primary school, to secondary schools, to community levels, and to even some commercial sex workers. I don't have the statistics here. We've done a lot in primary school, secondary school, and we're deepening our efforts to villages. And with all the personnel we have, we intend to have hubs and do some of this sensitization so as to balance our demand supply reduction with drug demand reduction. And by doing that, we're preventing the use of drugs. And if I also want to mention that the way cannabis is being used now has even gone beyond smoking. You go to garages, motor parks, you see Menace who is doing tea. Ordinarily, we think it's breakfast, but they brew cannabis and they know their customers, mostly drivers, who will come in and take this tea before they start their car to go to wherever they're going. And when you see somebody taking tea, what do you think is just ordinary tea that is taking? But of course, we've done a research. Our own mini research has shown that some tea hawkers actually brew cannabis. Some pepper soup makers in leisure parks, they also use cannabis to make pepper soup. Yes. And all these things are known to us. So our officers are everywhere. They are now taking all these things. But you see, importantly, we're looking at where they're getting their supplies from. We're getting some of them, but we look at where they're getting their supplies from. That's what I meant by looking at the flower, from the flower to the stem and to the roots. And we're dealing with barons. We're arresting so many barons. You may be interested to know that this year alone, we've arrested about 45 barons. And in doing this, all of them are undergoing trial. And in the past 2 years, we have really increased our take on barons. Well, the onslaught is against barons, really. But of course, that does not mean we don't get those traffickers and those who are using it. In most cases, we come across those who are users. And then we try, as first responder, we try to counsel and rehabilitate them. And this year, if I tell you that this year alone, we have rehabilitated and rehabilitated and counseled about 8,031 clients. Just this year, between January and September this year, 8,000 have passed through our rehabilitation center.
In your operations, what would be the agency's greatest challenge?
Well, the greatest challenge we have is these new psychotropic substances, because it's difficult to know when it's being used, it's difficult to know when it's being supplied. Just like we're told here that we have patent medicine dealers who are making this concoction at the village level. For Mpurimiri, we know that we're telling them that we still need to get equipment to see how to track them in the forest. Most of these laboratories, clandestine laboratories, are done in the forest. We're getting some of them. But the diversion we're talking about of some precursor chemicals, the one that NAFDAC license, we know that ephedrine is used for meth, and in most cases, it's difficult for them to police the diversion of this. We come across some of them, and ephedrine is used for meth, and we have a lot of meth being produced in the country.
Okay, yes. I just have a quick, question for you. What kind of help do you prefer to those who, come to you?
Okay. First of all, our help center, I Choose Life Help Site, is actually a mental health organization. So we actually proceeded from being on the field to like the help center is just one part of the project, one part of our projects that we do, activities that we do. Majority of our activities are actually on the field. We go to schools, we go to marketplaces. Like currently, we're even training women on postpartum depression currently in Lagos. So these are some of the things we do. We engage young people with. We use entertainment to help young people also stay out of depression, and then open them up to be able to tell us what they are going through. And then we give them alternatives.
Yes, for those who are already hooked and who come to you, what advice do you give them? Do you refer them to any particular rehabilitation center or any professional, health?
Okay, yeah. So first of all, we give mental health first aid. But then for us, if we need to escalate it, we're actually partnering with Vigada and Vanguard Against Drug and Substance Misuse. We partner with them. So we also have some people there, even as an NGO. We have some people that we've referred to in that place because we partner with them that are currently receiving treatments from them. And then we're hoping...
Is the treatment free?
Well, it depends.
Not treatment, you said first aid.
No, they said some are currently...
We give first aid.
They give first aid.
Yeah, for the treatment that is happening,
is costly.
The NGO, sometimes, when we are able to identify some issues, we can partner with Vigada, and then they are getting treatment. This treatment is not free. So that's why we needed more people to partner with us, more organizations, more individuals to partner with us to be able to, carry out more treatment. Like Dr. Hope was saying yesterday, the drugs are very expensive and a whole lot of things. So currently, one of the problems we are facing now is funds to be able to accept more people, and send them for treatment and all that. So, yeah.
So if I can take from where she stopped.
Just in 30 seconds, we're out of time.
Similar to what they're doing, NDLA has a 247 free call to receive treatment from those who don't want to access it because of stigmatization.
Okay.
And we make this call you can speak in Igbo, Hausa, Yoruba, or Pidgin.
Or any of the other languages.
And if I may just give the number quickly to those ones who may be interested, you can call from the comfort of your room. You don't need to give your name.
Yes, please, just say the number.
0800-1020-3040. It's a very simple number.
080-010-203040.
That is 247
12-4.
NDLA helpline.
Yes, it's 12
All right.
figures, yes.
Let's appreciate Barrister Shadrach Haruna, Secretary, National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLA. Thank you very much. We also would like to appreciate Senator Babangida Hussaini, Chairman, Senate Committee on FEMA and mover of the motion. Distinguished Senator, thank you for joining us from your retreat venue in Uyo, and of course, Olive Chiamaka Sadiq. Okay. I choose live helpline responder.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
I didn't get to call the number for the helpline.
We're already out of time. I'm sure that it's possible for anyone to go online and then get out your numbers. It's a conversation we always will return to sometime in the future, and hopefully then the news will be much better. Dr. Oliver Staub of the UNODC was also with us. Thanks a lot for joining us today. That's it for the week. We're back on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Look after yourselves. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak from the GMN crew. Have a great weekend.